Good afternoon, everyone. This is Victor from NewStars Migration. Today, I would like to spend some time to go details again with the metric system. The reason I'm doing why is this is the beginning of the financial year, and we are all waiting the allocation number to be announced by the governments. In the meantime, we have a lot of people moving from interstate, and also some people who are residents in overseas interested in Canberra Matrix system. So I think it's worthwhile to spend some time. Let's go through the system and the points details again with those people who are not so familiar with the Canberra Matrix. A lot of people get confused about the points, differences between Canberra Matrix and EOI system. Today, I'll spend some time talk about metric first, and next week we're going to talk about EOI points as well. So first of all, how would you be able to get the resources about Canberra Matrix system? Very, very easy. If you will Google Canberra Matrix or ACT migration, Canberra migration, there will be a website. That is a website produced by ACT governments, and then on that particular website, you'll be able to find a document called ACT Nomination Guideline. Within the guideline, on the page 15 to page 18, you'll find 4 pages compose the points composition for Canberra residents. So that's the part I would like to talk about today. First of all, if you open that page, you will see the first category is for ACT residency points. So in Canberra Matrix system, that's a very big part of the points for the time of residency. So people staying in Canberra for certain year of time will get award for certain points. The points starting for 5 points for those people living for 1 year, and then the points goes by year to the maximums of 25 points for 5-year residency. So that's the first thing you want to understand. You will get points for your residency in Canberra, and one of the things you also want to keep in mind is the evidence. We got a lot of clients asking about how can I prove my residency in Canberra. ACT governments they look at your bank statement as the main evidence for your residency. So they want to see your start date, the date you're starting to live in Canberra from your bank statement. For example, you have regular transactions on the bank statement, and they shows in ACT. They will consider that period at your time in ACT. That's very important to keep in mind. Bank statement, not lease contract, not phone bills, electricity bills. The most important thing is your bank transaction. That's the one concept you want to have in mind. And second thing is about the area you can stay. You can stay any area, referring to the postcode in ACT. So if the postcode telling you you are in the capital territory, then that is within the area. And there's a few area which is in terms of postcode, it's actually not in Canberra, but ACT government still recognize you are living in Canberra. For example, the most popular one is called Queanbeyan. So that is the area somewhere about 25 to 30 minutes drive to the borders of ACT, because a lot of Canberrans actually stay in that area. So ACT governments recognize that as Canberra residency place. So that's 2 important concepts to have in mind: bank statement and the area you can stay. That's first part. Second part is English proficiency. So you also get points reward for your English proficiency. The rule is if you have proficient level, you get 10 points. If you have a superior level, you get 15 points. In terms of definitions about proficient level or superior level, there are very detailed requirements on the Department of Home Affairs website. Take those very common English tests, for example, like IELTS. If you're doing IELTS, that means 7 each for the proficient level, 8 each, band A each for superior level. So that's English points. You get points for that. And the following section is the points for your spouse or partner's English proficiency. So if you have a spouse and then you actually bringing your spouse into the application, you also get points award for your spouse English level. That is, if your spouse English level is a superior level or proficient level, you get 5 points. So either superior or proficient, you get the main applicant will get 5 points from the spouse. The next section is nomination occupation. You get 20 points. Pretty much everybody get 20 points because your occupation is on the ACT occupation list. 20 points is automatically given to you if you are eligible to apply in ACT Matrix system. You get 20 points. This 20 point was resolved back in 2 years ago. Back in that time, there's a rules about open and closed skill occupation list, but now it was a history thing. But you always get 20 points. That's the fourth section, and the fifth sections on this points composition. It is the points award for small business owner. So if you are running small business and you applied on the small business stream, you will get 20 points if your eligible business has been operated in Canberra for more than 12 months. You get 20 points for that. If the business has been running more than 6 months, you get 10 points from that. I'm not going to go very detailed about the small business owner because the majority of people will go for the other string. So simply saying, if you're not going for small business owner string, this section has nothing to do with you. And the next section is the length of employment, ACT employment points. That is, if you have been employing in ACT for 6 months, more than 6 months, you get 5 points. If you've been employed for more than 12 months, you get 10 points. For this employment purpose, it's regardless which occupation you're working in. For example, if your nomination is accountant, you can work as in hospitality or in other sector as long as a legal employment, as long as it is more than 20 hours a week, then that is eligible for the point purpose. But at the meantime, if you are not employed by a company, you are actually working under self-employment statute. So that means not only applies to those sole traders, somebody having an ABN and working as a sole trader, driving a Uber, for example. If that's the case, you need to make sure your weekly income is actually more than $520, and your business means your ABN registrations need to be operating in Canberra for then 12 months. You need to meet these two criteria in order to claim the employment points. But if you are working for somebody, then you don't have to worry about that. It's 6 months for 5 points, 12 months for 10 points. The next section is ACT employment skill level points. So ACT giving a lot of points to sections about employment, the length of employments, the type of employments, spousing employment. So this is sections given to the type of employment. If you different employment level you can take as different type of employment. So the first part is they're giving 20 points if you are working in your nominal occupations in ACT. So take an example, if your nominal occupation is a civil engineer and you be able to find a civil engineering job and you've been working as a civil engineer in Canberra for a certain period of time, here refers to at least 3 months, 13 weeks, and for minimums of 20 hours a week. If you meet that criteria, you get 20 points. This is a very big point for pretty much anybody applying for Canberra Matrix. So working in your nominal occupation for at least 3 months before you submit the matrix will get your points increased by 20 points. Second one is you get 15 points if you are the primary holders of 457 or 482 visa and you're working in the your sponsor employer, and then you get 15 points. Of course, this section only applies to those people holding the employer sponsor visa. And then you also be able to claim 10 points if you are working in an occupation that is on ACT list but is not your relevant occupation. For example, like the example we just mentioned before, somebody as nominated occupation is civil engineer, but he or she is so talented and he have the skill to be working in IT sector, saying software engineer. So a civil engineer, which is in a different direction, and he's working as a software engineer, he can claim 10 points. But that's a precondition to that points award to you. You need to have a tertiary qualification relevant to your occupation, means the software engineer. So if a civil engineer want to claim the points as working as software engineer, he or she need to prove he or she have a qualification in IT relevant to software engineer. So that's a precondition. You need to have a qualification to claim this 10 points. And the following one is you have the 5 points option if you're working in an ANZCO level skill 1 to 3. So ANZCO spelled as ANZSCO. That's Australia and New Zealand's work standard classifications website. So this website categorize different job into different levels. So if your job level is skill level 1 to 3, and you're working in that position, you'll be able to get 5 points. Again, that's a precondition for that. You need to have a relevant qualification. For example, somebody working in a restaurant as a part-time restaurant manager, if that's the case, will the AC government is looking to see you have hospitalities or management qualification to prove it is relevant to the position that is restaurant manager. So that is pretty much about the skill level section. This is one of the most complicated section within this chart. And the following one, as I mentioned, they're also giving points for spouse points. So spouse points ranging from 15 points to 0 points. The 15 points award to the spouse is working on critical list, so on the occupation, and they have skill assessment. So the spouse need to have a skill assessment relevant to the employment, and this title need to be on ACT occupation list. So that's if that's the case, the spouse contribute 15 points to the main applicant. And the next one is the 10 points if the spouse have a skill assessment and is relevant to the employment, but this occupation is not on ACT occupation list. Currently, architect is not on ACT occupation list. So if the spouse have a skill assessment as an architect and the spouse is working as an architect, then the spouse contribute 10 points to the main applicant. Then the following one's 5 points for the spouse working in any occupation in Canberra, you get 5 points. That is also for 3 months, at least 20 hours per week. You will contribute 10 points to the main applicants. Alternatively, that's another 5 points. If the spouse do not have been working in ACT, he's not working or does not meet 3 months employment criteria, then the spouse need to have a tertiary qualification from an Australian institution, and if that's and also meet the English requirement, that is a component level, then the spouse can also contribute to the main applicant for 5 points. Till here, one of the definitions I want to mention is a lot of people also asking, can I claim multiple points from different sector? The answer is no. So if you take in each section, which within the same box, that is a section. Within each section, you can claim only 1 points. Type of points. You cannot claim 10 and 15 points at the same time. You have to choose one. Okay. And the following one is the tertiary qualification. Very straightforward. Ranging from 5 points to 20 points. From diploma level to doctor level, it's ranging from 5 to 20 points. And then the following one's years of study at an ACT tertiary institution. That means you have to study in ACT for a certain period of time, and for that particular course you need to be completed. For example, if you're studying ACT for 1 year in a diploma course and you graduate from that diploma course, you have the evidence of the diploma course, you get 5 points. If you graduate from the master course for 2 years, you get 10 points. If you graduate from the bachelor level courses, you get 3 years bachelor course, you get 15 points. You can combine, for example, the bachelor courses for 3 years and master course for 2 years to make it 5 years. If that's the case, it's more than 4 years, you get 20 points. So the course must be, it does not need to be continuous, but you can combine the time together. Okay. And the following one, the last second one is the points for close family tie. So if you have family living in Canberra, and they have been living in Canberra for more than 2 years, and they must be Australian citizens of permanent residency, and they will contribute you points. Here, the family member definition is spouse, partner, child, parent, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, or grandparents of the main applicant. It needs to be the relationship from the main applicant. If you have a spouse, partner, child who are living in Canberra, and you get 20 points for that. And if you have parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunt or uncle, you get 10 points. So I have some clients who actually have relatives who are actually living in Canberra more than 2 years. They get 10 points from that. And the last section is SS in Canberra. That normally referring to purchasing residential or commercial property. A lot of people actually was asking, consulting about the options of these 5 points, not just for the 5 points or the metric purpose, but also for the investment as well. So it's kind of combining both. The requirement here is you need to spend at least $250,000 investment in ACT property. So the loans you're borrowing from the bank does not count into the $250,000. One of the example is if the apartment's worth $500,000, you had to pay $250,000 by yourself. At the meantime, you can borrow the rest, $150,000 from somewhere. So that's the requirement. So yeah, that's pretty much all the sections about Canberra Matrix system. We get a lot of inquiries about details of the Matrix system from time to time, but people get more and more familiar if they're starting to follow in Canberra Matrix system. But for those people who are thinking about moving to Canberra and just pay attention to Canberra migration, this system is brand new to them. Now the state government in Australia have a very similar point system at state government level. So this is brand new knowledge for a lot of people. But just go through the lines, go through the details. Canberra government, within this guideline, they did a lot of explanation. So try to make those guidelines as clear as possible. So yeah, this is the purpose for today. I want to spend some time, get people to more familiar with the Canberra Matrix for those newcomers. And next week we're going to talk about EOI system. There was some tricky part within the EOI point system, also confused a lot of people. I'll spend some time talk about that as well. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.